Okay, today I'm doing a Photoshop CS6 tutorial on the photo that I showed you earlier. Uh, this is obviously what you see when you first open up your Photoshop. Now, mine's a newer version than yours, the one that I gave you, but it looks exactly the same and has the same options, I promise. Starting off, we're going to go to File. You're going to go to New. Now, the name doesn't matter because that's going to change later when you save it. Width and height, yours should be by default set to inches. Go ahead and drop it down and click pixels. Screens are measured in pixels, and screens nowadays have a 16:9 aspect ratio, meaning the length of the screen is 16 and the ratio to the width is 9. That's what all standard high definition screens are. That's what everything is made in nowadays. Posters, everything is 16:9 aspect ratio. Resolution, for width and height, you want it to be at 1920 by 1080. Currently, that's the standard for monitors as of today for a nice high quality picture. And when you set this one to pixels, it'll make this one pixels automatically. Resolution, you want to set that to 1080 as well. That means that there's 1080 square pixels per square inch on your screen. Your screen, I believe your laptop is 720, but that's okay because you'll be able to edit everything just fine. Don't worry about it. This is just so you know the standard. And you want it pixels to square inch. Color mode, leave it at RGB color and then leave it at 8-bit. You'll notice if you change it from 8-bit to 16-bit, the image size right here almost doubles. So leave it at 8-bit. It's not important for what we're doing today. Background contents, yours is going to say white. Go ahead and change it to transparent. That gives us a lot more room to work with. And then click OK. Now the first thing you're going to see is this big white area with a nice checkerboard looking pattern in the background. In Photoshop, if it's a checkerboard pattern like the one that you're seeing right now, that means that there's physically nothing there. There's literally nothing going on. So right here you're going to see layer 1. This is your first layer. That you're also getting an introduction to layers in this video. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make a cool backdrop, just something that looks interesting, it sparks interest to someone who's just glancing at it. Since this is transparent, we have no base color, no nothing. It's physically like there's nothing there. We're going to go over here to this button. This is your gradient tool button. If you don't have gradient tool button, right click it and it might say paint bucket tool. If it looks like paint bucket, change it to gradient tool. Now the first gradient you're going to have up here, if you're going to drop down this list right here, and it gives you the pre-made ones. Yours is going to look a little different than mine, but you can choose whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and choose just black and white because it looks best for what we're doing. Mode, right here you have the different types. I'll give you a demonstration. This is the first one. This is just the transition that happens. This is what a gradient is. Gradient means one or more colors combined together and blending. So this is a black and white gradient, and it's black and white, and you can see the shade of gray in the middle. Now I'm going to press Ctrl Z, which is undo, so that it goes away. Now the next one you have right next to that one is a radial gradient, meaning it's a circle gradient. If I take this and draw the line, it makes a circle. If I undo it and drag it even farther, it makes the circle bigger. It makes it more of a shade and more of a gradient. I can make it really small, and I have this. Notice how the checker pattern disappears and you have the opposite color. That's important to know because you're always going to have that opposite color. Let's say you wanted a white circle with a black background. You go up here to reverse, and then it does the exact opposite. So make sure you go up to mode right here and go it down to difference. I'll explain the other ones to you later. But basically, difference allows you to lay multiple ones over multiple ones. If you leave it on normal, it's only going to be, when you click it, I'll go ahead and show you. If you leave it on normal, this is what it does. You have that, and then if you try to make another one, it replaces it, and you don't want that. You want to go to difference, which works best in black and white mode, which I'll explain later. Go ahead and just make something that looks interesting. And then just keep playing with it and you'll get some really odd, funky looking shapes, that's going to be our background. That's going to be our interesting background tool. So now you got a pretty funky looking background with some cool spiky stuff and some gradient tools, which already looks pretty interesting, but you want to add a little jive to it, make it look a little interesting. We're going to go up here to the toolbar, and we're going to go to Filter. And then we're going to click Filter Gallery, ... When you bring up Filter Gallery, it's going to look really weird and go, oh my gosh, what happened? Down here on the bottom left, it's very small, click the minus, maybe once or twice, so you can see the full image. Now this is the image. Yours is going to probably look like this to start off. Over here you have these menus. You have Brush, Distort, Sketch, Stylize, and you have a whole bunch of them. They all do something different. They all have a different aspect. They all do something different to your picture. Now we're going to do number of levels on this one. You can change it. You can modify it. It makes it look completely different. Whatever you do, it'll make it look extremely interesting. Like Neon Glow will add a kind of glow to it when you do brightness. I mean, there's tons of stuff you can change about it. My personal favorite ones, I mean, you can mess with that as much as you want. Pause the video here and have fun. My personal favorite ones are the sketch ones, where you have base relief, which gives it that cool Marsy looking feel to it. Then you got chrome, where it decks it out, makes it look really, really interesting. And you can add more detail, make it smoother or rigid. I mean, it's just fun to mess around with. Then you got plaster. Plaster gives it that cool gradient effect to it as well. Let's see. Photocopy. It's like a bad photocopy kind of thing. Graphic pen, like you sketched it yourself. Charcoal. And then stylize. Glowing edges. Glowing edges will make it, you can change the darkness, change the brightness, whatever. Smoothness. It's just fun to mess around with. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine on this one because I prefer the swirls more to the jagged edges. And I'm going to click OK. That's going to apply it to our image. Now I'm going to teach you a hotkey for a new layer. Press Control, Shift, and then the letter N, and it'll say Name Layer 2. Just click OK, and you'll notice it over here. Now these layers go in order. Layer 1 is now our background. It was checkered. Now it is a physical image, and we can put stuff on top of it. I'm going to go in Layer 2. And I'm going to go ahead and just start making stuff on it. Now notice how the other picture went away. That's normal because layer 2 is on top of layer 1. If I take layer 2 and I move it underneath layer 1 by just dragging and dropping it, there's layer 1 again. But you can't see layer 2 because layer 1 is a full image as well. So I'm going to move layer 1 back to where it's going to be on your screen in the front position. And then I'm going to remove the stuff that I put on it. So now we have a blank layer 1. Notice how there's this layer 1, the layer we just made, is just like the first layer that we started off with. But the difference is that you don't see a checkered pattern because it's transparent. Checkered pattern resembles transparent when there's nothing else to be seen. So there would be a checkered pattern here if there wasn't any background image, but we do have one. So now we're going to go to text. Click the T over here. It's very standard. Just click it, wait for a second because it takes a second to load. Go in the corner, and then drag it all the way across. It doesn't matter whatever height you put it at, doesn't matter. Just make sure you match the width. Click into it, and then start typing something randomly. If you can't see anything that you just typed, there's a good chance that your font is too small. You go up here and change your font to, I'm going to change mine to, let's say, 400. And I'm going to start typing. Okay, I still can't see anything, which might mean it's too big. So I'm going to change my font to 2. Now I can see my font. We actually can see something going on. So I'm going to change it back to something reasonable. I want to have a full screen text, so I'm going to make it something pretty big. I'm going to go ahead and drag down my box so it's a centered image and start typing. Now obviously this is too big, to continue. So I'm pressing Control A, which highlights the text so I can edit the size. If you want to do one letter at a time, I can change this letter from 58 to 20, and then change this letter to 20 again, and then change this letter to 20. And now you have a really interesting looking kind of sketchy thing going on, which interests some people, but that's not the point of today. I'm going to press Enter once so I can kind of center the text, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 20 and put in the text that I want. Now notice that my font is going to look a lot different than your font. But believe it or not, you have tons of font options. I'm highlighting mine, and I'm going to click up here to live the brush drop down list, and you have tons and tons of brushes to go through. You can choose any one you want to sample it, and it'll change it real quick, and then you can pick another one and test it again. So whichever one that you want to do. I like this one because it's kind of artsy and craftsy, and it looks interesting. You're not going to have it because I downloaded it, and I'll show you how to download fonts in a second. So now we have this. It's centered, but I want it a little bigger, so I'm going to select the whole thing and put it to 40. Now, it went down because I pressed enter, if you remember. So I'm going to remove the enter, and then up here in this space, because if you get right here, you'll change the size of it. If you're right here, it changes the text. If you move up just a little bit more, you'll see the cross-directional arrows. You can drag and drop your text down, and I'm going to go ahead and try to center it as best as I can. I'll leave it like that, and I want it to be full screen, so I'm going to go ahead and add a few more points to it. 45, put it 46, 47, 48, 49. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 49 because that's pretty much as big as it'll get centered. Now, we're going to click this check mark up here. That finalizes it. That means that you know the text. If you messed up and you want to edit it, just make sure you're on the correct text layer, which is right here. The layer that we made turned into a text layer. And then you can click, and you can go back and forth and edit all the different letters. And you can even choose a different letter and put it in a different font. You can do crazy, crazy things. It's limited by the creativity of your mind and the skill of the program that you know. Notice how layer 1 has to constantly stay under layer 2. Now these eyeballs right here, those are the different layers turning them on or off. Layer 1, if I press this, turns it off. You have the checkered pattern because it's transparent. There's nothing there because I turned it off. Press it again, turns it right back on. So that we're gonna go ahead and mess with the text. I'll show you how. Make sure, because you're about to right click, do not right click inside this box, or just make sure you right click on the right one because you won't get the same options as me. Now, when you right click on the text, over here in the layers option, you're going to click blending options. This is going to bring up a whole panel of crazy stuff that does crazy stuff to your text. So now make sure you have the text unhighlighted so you can understand what you're doing to it. Right here, you're never going to mess with this one. Don't worry about it. This is opacity, meaning the entire text's opacity. So if you drop it down, you'll notice you start to see through the text. So if you want to do kind of like ghost letters or something, you can do it that way by making it transparent because you can see the layer that's under it. That's where layers are important. So I'm going to leave it at 100%, which is what yours is at default. Bevel and emboss, I'll go ahead and check mark it so you can see what it does. It adds a bit of depth to it and a kind of color. And if you actually click it, you can change the settings for it, inner or outer. You can do tons of stuff to it. You can add more depth. It gets crazy. There's tons of settings that you can just fiddle with until you get a really cool result. And the best part is when you combine a bunch of these and you get something really cool. I'm going to go to stroke. Stroke gives it an outline. I don't know if you can see it. I'll go ahead and make it larger. This number represents how many times the line is going to be around the letters. It's on 3 right now. I'm going to change it to 9. You can see how it's getting thicker and thicker. It's giving it like cartoony outline. And it also sort of matches the lines that are in the background. So it gives you more of a tie-in effect, in my opinion. And you can change it. You can change the color just by clicking here and choosing whatever color you want. It makes it red. We can make it gator colors, whatever you want. And you can even make it gradient by clicking this drop down, because this is fill type for the kind of color it's going to be. Let's choose gradient, and now you can choose, when you click that bar, it'll bring up the gradient option again, same as what was over here from before, and I'll choose a rainbow. And now my text is outlined with a rainbow color, and it looks amazing. But we're going to go back to just standard color. We'll leave it standard for now. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a I'm going to give it a white outline. And I'm going to make the text, let's see, we're going to go to color overlay, which that basically annexes out the blue and forces it to be a different color. Check mark the box so it turns it on, but then click it over here so that you can actually change it. And we're going to go from red to black. That way, it has more of a tie-in effect on the background, but it's still bold and stands out because it's not transparent, it's black, but you can still see what's going on. It gives it more of an October-ish look to it, if you will, a Halloween look. And then we'll go to Inner Glow. Inner glow, it's just how the letters are. It depends on the font that you choose is how well the stuff's going to work together, because it's a great application. It's great for the text, but it depends on the kind of text that you're using, because some of it gets complex and it's pretty crazy. This is a moderate text. Now we're going to go to gradient overlay. This option changes the actual gradient of the letters, not the outline. So when I turn it on and I choose, let's say this, notice how it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything because the color overlay comes before gradient overlay. If I turn off the color, because you remember it was blue, and when I turned this on, it forced it to be black. If I turn it off, there you have the color I just put on it. But I want it to stay black. That was just a demonstration of why you might do something and it won't show up, because one of these other ones will override it, so you won't be able to see it. I'll turn this option off because it doesn't matter. Now we're going to go to outer glow. I'm going to give it a slight glow, but you can't see it yet because the outline is covering the glow. That's how small it is right now. We're going to change the color from nasty yellow and give it a reddish looking interesting glow. Leave this on softer because it's not really much of a difference, and drag the spread to about 30 something percent. Make the size a little larger, and now you can see the spread that's going on, how it's getting bigger, smaller, and you can do tons of different things with it. We'll make the spread, watch what happens with the spread. If you drag it to 100%, it doesn't make it soft. It makes it to where it's a hard color. The more you drop it down, the more it actually has a glow to it and you can see the background. So I'm going to give it a nice 4% subtle glow so you can see it, see the outline, see the letters, and see the background all in the same picture. And for just an interesting three-dimensional depth perception, you can add a drop shadow down here and you can click it. These are your settings. You can change the angle of which way the shadow is going to turn. We'll make the distance pretty far away, and then we'll make the spread and the size. Let's see, the smaller you make the size, the more definitive the shadow is. We'll make the distance really far. We'll change the color from a black to a more of a white. That way it's more definitive and you can see it. We'll change the distance. Oh, that's too far away. Okay. My shadow doesn't want to show up. Alright, we'll worry about that later. So click OK. Now you have really nice text with an outline and a glow on a nice looking background that you already added a filter to. Now notice over here you have effects, and then in the drop down of effects you have stroke, the color overlay, and the outer glow, the three things that we applied. The stroke is the white outline, the color overlay is when it was blue and we forced it to be black, and the outer glow is the red. And then under that, you have layer 1, which is the background. It has to be under the text for the text to show up. If I take the layer 1, drag it on top of the text is gone. Under it, text is back. That's how layers work. Now, what we're going to do is a little more advanced feature. It's pretty difficult to use on the first time, so if you don't get it, it's okay. Click right here on this pen, right above the T, and this is going to be your pen tool. It creates paths. Now, this is how I made the lines go through the letters. I'm going to show you that right now. Hold Control on your keyboard and press the plus key right next to backspace, and it's going to help you zoom in. That way you can get a better, closer, definitive look at the text. Now we're going to click right here just randomly, and I'm going to drag it across. Notice how it makes a little seesaw. This is how it's going to make the line. Notice how that line is curving and following the path that I do with this line. You make it longer, and it affects how it keeps going. Notice how it's going right over the text, and then the line keeps going right over the text, and I just keep dragging it just to make, interesting little marks and moves and shapes and everything. And it's going over the text, and the more you click, the line just keeps following and following. See, start point, start, it follows all the way. If you make a mistake, don't worry, press Control Z. If you press Control Z again, it puts it back. So if you make more than one mistake, you press Control Alt Z, and then it goes back and back and back. So I'll go ahead and redo what I just did. So now we got some funky looking pen marks going through. And then I'm just doing it randomly, nothing special here. and I'm making a path go straight through all of my letters. And then this is the cool little outline, or not outline, the underline that I did, is I just made the line have a nice little curve right under all the text and lead off the screen. So now that this basically right here is the end of the line. And now we have a path. We're going to press control minus, meaning it zooms back out, and now you can see this interesting looking path that I've put through the text. And this okay, hang on. Before you make the path, if you've done it, I'm sorry. Before you make the path, press Control Shift N and make another layer. Now it's going to make this layer in between here. We're going to take it and drag this transparent layer on top of the text. And now we're going to click pen and we're going to go redo our line straight through the G and whatnot. Make it interesting and all that jazz. I'm just making it look real funky because I'm not trying, nothing serious. Okay. Now we have this path is on its own separate layer because we don't want it to interfere with the background or anything like that. So it has to be on its own layer. That's why I had to go redo it. Now we're going to click on this one, this mouse right here. Click it. And then you're going to come over here, right click. We're going to go to Stroke Path. Stroke Path means that it's going to take this path that we've made and it's going to stroke it with something. And it's going to use the brush. Click OK. Notice how it makes a nice line. Now, it uses the preset settings for your brush. So if yours doesn't come out like mine, or you can't, if you can see this line, if yours doesn't come out like mine, make sure that you go over here to the brush, right here, and make sure that the little circle is at the size that you want it to be. Because notice, it lines up perfectly with the size. So if it's too big, oh, wrong tool. That's not brush. Brush right here. And then notice the circle. That's the size of the line that went all the way through. If yours is weird, press Control Z, go to brush like I did here, right click and change the size right here. See how it gets bigger, smaller. Make it to a size that you want it to be for the outline because this is just going to go crazy through it. So you want it to be at the correct size. And then once you do that, go back here, right click here, and then click Stroke Path, and then do it, and it will do it. It'll redo it. See how mine got a little bigger. So I'm going to leave mine at what it was, and we notice we have this annoying path thing in the way. You know, it's like, oh, okay, I can see my line, but this sketch is in the way. So on the same setting on this thing right here, right click and click Delete Path, because once you've stroked it, the path is done, and it's on its own layer. It's separate from the rest of the image. It's okay. Now we're going to go back to right click over here, just like we did with the text, and click Blending Options. When you click Blending Options, it's going to have the same thing. We're just going to, real quick, we're going to do a color overlay. So we change the color back to red so it matches the glow that's already there. We're going to add an outer glow to it and change that to red as well because I want this to have a nice tie-in effect. We'll make it a little bit more of a spread. Change the size. Let's see. Actually, we'll make the color black. And now you can see the glow better because it's not going to show up very well if you blow up the image. Leave it as red, and then spread. Leave the spread pretty small. We'll make the size bigger. That way you got an interesting glow effect going on. We'll make the spread even smaller. Okay, and we'll leave it just like that. You can mess with it however you want. We'll click OK, and now you notice, okay, I got a random line going all over my letters. So I'm going to show you how I did that effect earlier when I made it look like it was looping around the letters. We're going to go ahead and zoom in, pressing Control plus again, and then we're going to drag the bar down here over, and we're going to start with the G. And this is just a one-by-one thing. We're going to click the erase tool, which is right here. Notice how mine's pretty big. You might want to make it a little smaller for the details. I'm going to leave mine on 22. Now we're only on layer 2, So it's only going to delete stuff that's on layer 2. Notice how if I click and try to go through the background or anything else, it's not erasing it. But if I go on this, it does erase it. And that's only because this line exists on layer 2. It is only on this and nothing else. So I'm going to undo that. And it's basically you in your head, you think of under, over, under, over. The first one, we're going to make it under. So where the outline starts, you delete the line and leave just a tiny little, where it's hitting it. And then you delete it while it's on top of the letter because we want it to give the illusion of going under. So we delete it all the way down to here. Can you keep going? Just getting rid of the line. I'm following the line, and then the lines comes off the letter right here. So now you have the appearance of the line starts up there, goes under the G, comes out here, goes over here, and now this is going to go over the O, but it's got to go back under the G. So we'll leave it right here, stop right here, right there. So now it looks like it's hitting right there and going back under the G and then coming above. And then I'm scrolling up, dragging over. I'm just following the line with my eyes. And now the last thing we did was under. So now we got to go over. It's going over, over, over. Well, now it's hitting the O again. So it's got to go under. Just over, under, over, under. And then you delete the line. You just follow, 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 follow. And you leave it right where it starts off on the O. So now it looks like it goes under the O again. Well, the next would be over. So it goes over the I right here. Goes over the I. Makes a little loop. And now it's got to go under the E. So we erase right here. And we follow it, make sure we get all of it. Oops, went a little too far. I'm pressing Control Z just to undo that one. Going all the way down. Notice how I'm only doing this with one click. It doesn't matter how many clicks you use. So it goes under, and then this one it goes over, and this is where the underline starts. So I'm going to zoom back out, and now you have this effect where it looks like it goes under the G, comes out here, over the I, under right here, then it goes over the B, under the O, over the I, under the E, and then over the E's right here, and then it just outlines it across. And now you have your outline. Now you have basically a completed picture, and it has 3 layers. So you've successfully created a picture that has 3 layers. We're going to go to File, Save As, and to save it as the highest quality, this is where I said the name wouldn't come in handy until now. We're going to change it to Gobi Background. Change this from Photoshop to JPEG, because JPEG is the standard. Click Save, and always, always, always drag this over to the highest you can go, and then do just baseline standard, it doesn't matter, and it's going to be 1.2 megabytes. Click OK, and now it's going to save it. You go to minimize this. Now you're on your desktop. That's the other background I made, something similar we did today. And I'm going to choose Gobi Background. Right click it, set as desktop background, and there you go. That's the image that we just made, and it's a successful picture. Now, I'm going to show you how to get fonts. Bring up your internet browser, go up here, go to dafont.com, Dafont, and it's going to give you tons of fonts, just anything. Read it fancy, cartoon, comic, groovy, old school, curvy, anything you want. Let's say I want this one, just this random one that's right here. We're going to go over here to download, and it's going to download to the computer. You save the file, click OK, and the computer's going to save it for me. As soon as it decides to save, it's going to pop up right here. Now you double click it, and it's going to open like this, and it's going to have a tiny little A in the thing. Just double click it, and it'll have the font, and it basically the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog contains every letter in the alphabet, so that's why they use it. And that's how it basically just gives you a little sample like the one on the website. Just click install, and it says installing. And remember the name of it. The name of the font is In the Streets of Europe. So open up Photoshop again, the thing we were working on. Go to just text. Click here. Alphabetical order. It'll be right here, In the Streets of Europe. It installed that quick, and it brings it up that quick. And then you can start using it. That's how I get fonts. And we'll cover brushes later. But now you have a very solid understanding of what I do in Photoshop.